an actress. You know, I never even thought of it. Probably the only dreams I've had was really having a real good marriage, possibly, and someday. And
11 years ago, Donna Douglas quietly passed away, leaving millions of fans heartbroken. For years, people believed her life faded after fame, but the truth is far more touching and unexpected. She did not disappear. She chose a different path. So, what really happened behind the scenes of her final years? Join us to find out. The day the world lost. Donna Douglas. On the very first day of 2015, a quiet piece of news began to spread, and it carried a heavy feeling for many people who had grown up watching television with their families. Donna Douglas, the warm and gentle face known to millions, had passed away at the age of 82. It happened in Louisiana, the same place where her life had first begun, and she was not alone. She was surrounded by people who loved her deeply. The cause was pancreatic cancer, a serious illness that often moves quietly until it becomes too strong to fight. For many, it felt sudden. One moment, she was a cherished memory on the screen, full of life and laughter, and the next, she was gone. People who remembered her as the bright and kind Ellie Mae found it hard to accept that such a joyful presence had come to an end. It was not just about losing an actress. It felt like losing a familiar friend who had been part of simple, happy times. As the news settled, something else began to grow slowly. Questions started to form, not loud or wild questions, but soft and curious ones. People began to wonder what her life had really been like in those final years. She had not been in the spotlight for a long time, and because of that, many assumed different things. Some believed she had faded away in sadness. Others thought she had been forgotten. A few even imagined there was something hidden behind her quiet absence. But the truth was much calmer than the guesses. In her last years, Donna Douglas chose a life that was peaceful and steady. She stayed close to her roots in Louisiana, away from the busy noise of Hollywood. Instead of cameras and bright lights, her days were filled with simple routines, familiar places, and meaningful connections. She spent time with family, kept her faith close, and continued to live in a way that matched who she truly was. She did not disappear. She simply stepped back. Even while living a quieter life, she never fully turned away from the people who loved her. She still attended events from time to time, met fans, and shared kind moments with those who remembered her work. Her smile remained the same, soft and welcoming, just as it had always been. There was no bitterness in her presence, no sign of regret. Instead, there was a sense of calm that many people search for but never quite find. What makes this part of her life so meaningful is how different it was from what many expected. In a world where fame often pulls people in and refuses to let go, she made a gentle choice to walk in another direction. She did not chase attention or try to hold on to past glory. She allowed herself to grow into a new season of life, one that was quieter but still full. Her passing did not come with drama or confusion. It was peaceful, just like the life she had been living. Yet, because she had stepped away from the public eye, her final chapter became something people did not fully understand. The silence around her made room for guesses, and those guesses slowly turned into stories that were not always true. That is where the real weight of her journey begins to show. Because when someone who once stood in the center of attention chooses a softer path, people often struggle to see the beauty in that choice. They look for something deeper, something hidden, something more dramatic. But in her case, the truth was not hidden behind secrets. It was simply resting in a life that had become private, steady, and real. Her passing, though sad, was not the end of a troubled life. It was the closing of a chapter that had been lived with care, intention, and quiet joy. The misunderstanding came not from what happened, but from what people could not see. And that is what makes her story so special. Because to understand her final years, it is important to go back to the beginning of how she became someone the world could not forget. Before the quiet life, before the questions, before the calm ending, there was a time when her face was everywhere. Her name was known in every home, and her presence brought smiles without effort. But how did a young woman from Louisiana rise to become one of the most loved faces on television? And what was it about her that made people feel so connected to her in the first place? Keep watching to find out. The woman behind Ellie Mae Clampett. Long before her name became known across homes, Donna Douglas was simply a young girl growing up in Louisiana. She was born as Doris Ione Smith in 1932, in a quiet place where life moved slowly and people valued simple joys. Her early years were not filled with cameras or attention. Instead, they were shaped by everyday moments, strong values, and a natural warmth that would later shine through on screen. As she grew older, it became clear that she carried a gentle charm that people easily noticed. She had a bright smile, a calm presence, and a way of making others feel comfortable without trying too hard. These qualities opened small doors for her at first. She began taking part in local beauty contests and did very well. In 1957, she earned titles like Miss Baton Rouge and Miss New Orleans. These wins were not just about looks. They showed her confidence, her grace, and the way she could connect with people.
That was how I entered my first contest, and then she got me on another one. But it was really, she had been a pony in the Ziegfeld Follies.
That early attention slowly led her toward something bigger. She began to move closer to the world of acting, a space that was very different from the quiet life she had always known. It was not an easy path. She did not become famous overnight. Instead, she took small steps, appearing in minor roles and learning as she went. Each role gave her a little more experience and helped her understand how the industry worked. One of her early appearances came in television shows, where she played small parts. These roles did not bring her instant recognition, but they helped her grow. She remained patient, steady, and focused, even when the progress felt slow. There was something about her that casting directors could not ignore. It was not loud or dramatic. It was soft, natural, and real. Then came the moment that changed everything. In the early 1960s, she was given the chance to play a character that would stay with her for the rest of her life. The role was Ellie Mae Clampett in the television series The Beverly Hillbillies. At first glance, the character seemed simple. Ellie Mae was kind, innocent, and deeply connected to animals. She spoke in a gentle way and carried herself with a natural honesty that made her different from many characters on television at the time.
Ellie Mae Clampett, that was her character on television, the Beverly Hillbillies. And now she resides in our area, in the Zachary area, correct?
But something special happened when Donna stepped into that role. She did not just act the part. She brought it to life in a way that felt real and warm. Viewers did not see a performance. They saw someone they could trust, someone who made them smile without effort. Children loved her kindness. Adults appreciated her sincerity. Families welcomed her into their homes week after week. The show itself became one of the most popular programs of its time. It ran from 1962 to 1971 and reached millions of viewers. But even in a cast filled with strong characters, Ellie Mae stood out in a unique way. She was not loud or forceful. She did not need to be. Her quiet sweetness made her unforgettable. As her fame grew, so did the connection people felt toward her. She became more than just an actress. She became a symbol of innocence and goodness during a time when the world was changing quickly. Her image stayed clean, her personality remained steady. And she never lost the gentle nature that made people love her in the first place. Yet, while this role brought her success, it also began to shape how the world saw her in ways she could not fully control. Because when a character becomes so strong, so loved, and so deeply connected to one person, it can slowly begin to take over everything else. People start to see only that character, even when the person behind it has much more to offer. And as the years passed, that very success began to create a quiet challenge. Because what happens when the role that made you famous becomes the only thing people can see, and can she ever step out of it? Stay with us to find out. The fame that changed everything. As the years passed, the success of the Beverly Hillbillies only grew stronger, and with it, Donna Douglas became one of the most recognized faces on television. The show was everywhere. Families gathered around their screens, laughter-filled living rooms, and her presence became a regular part of people's lives. It was the kind of fame many dream about, but few truly understand.
Go into the routine.
Howdy, this is the Element Beverly Hillbillies. I'd like to remind you folks to be sure and watch every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m.
Hiya, Steve.
Fine, thank you.
At first, everything felt bright and exciting. She was doing what she loved, and people responded with warmth and admiration. Her character brought comfort to viewers, and that connection made her feel appreciated. But as time moved forward, something subtle began to change. The more people watched her as Ellie Mae, the harder it became for them to see her as anything else. Producers, directors, and audiences all started to link her completely to that one role. It was no longer just a character she played. It became the image that followed her everywhere. When new opportunities came, they often looked very similar to what she had already done. The roles offered to her did not stretch her abilities or show different sides of her talent. Instead, they kept her in the same soft, innocent space. This is something many actors face, but it can feel especially heavy when the role is as strong and loved as hers. She did try to take on other projects. She appeared in films and different television programs, including a role alongside Elvis Presley in Frankie and Johnny. It was a chance to step into a slightly different light, to show that she could be more than one character. But even then, the shadow of Ellie Mae remained close. Audiences still saw her through that same lens, no matter the setting. It was not a lack of effort or ability. She had the skill, the experience, and the presence. But the industry often moves based on how people are seen, not just what they can do. And in her case, she had been seen in one way for so long that it became difficult to change that image. As the show came to an end in 1971, many expected her career to continue rising in new directions. But instead, things began to slow down. The offers became fewer, and the roles did not carry the same weight or attention. The bright spotlight that once followed her so closely started to fade, not because she had done anything wrong, but because the industry had already placed her in a fixed space. This shift can feel confusing from the outside. People often wonder why someone so loved would not continue to shine in the same way. But inside that experience, it can feel very different. It becomes a quiet moment of realization, where a person begins to understand that fame does not always move forward in a straight line. For Donna, this period was not filled with loud struggles or public complaints. She did not fight against the situation in a dramatic way. Instead, she handled it with the same calm nature that had always defined her. She accepted the changes, even when they were not easy, and began to look at life from a different angle. There is something important to notice here. While the outside world may have seen a slowing career, she was slowly reaching a turning point. The end of one chapter was opening the door to another, even if it was not clear at the time. Because when one path becomes narrow, another often begins to appear quietly. The question was no longer about how to hold on to the fame she once had. It became something deeper. It became about what kind of life she truly wanted to live moving forward. And that shift did not come with noise or pressure. It came gently, like a new direction forming in the background. Because if the world was no longer offering her the same spotlight, what would she choose to do with her life? And would she be willing to walk away from it completely? Keep watching to find out. Why Hollywood slowly let her go. As the bright lights of Hollywood slowly grew distant, Donna Douglas did something that many people did not expect. Instead of chasing after more roles or trying to reshape how the industry saw her, she chose a different path entirely. It was not a sudden decision made out of frustration. It was a calm and thoughtful step toward a life that felt more true to who she really was. For someone who had once been at the center of attention, this kind of shift can feel unusual from the outside. Many assume that fame is something a person would never want to leave behind. But for her, the meaning of success began to change. It was no longer about being seen by millions. It became about living with peace, purpose, and a deeper sense of fulfillment. She began to focus more on her faith, something that had always been quietly present in her life. This was not a small part of her identity. It became the center of her daily living. She spent time speaking at churches, sharing messages that encouraged hope, kindness, and strength. Her voice, once used to entertain, was now used to uplift and guide. Alongside this, she explored music in a new way. She recorded gospel songs, filling them with emotion and sincerity. Her singing carried the same gentle tone that people had always loved, but now it came from a place that felt even more personal. It was not about performance. It was about expression and connection. She also stepped into writing, creating books that reflected her beliefs and experiences. These works were simple, warm, and easy to understand, much like her personality. She did not try to impress with complex words or ideas. Instead, she shared thoughts that felt honest and close to the heart, allowing readers to connect with her in a new way. What stands out most during this time is how steady she remained. There was no sign of regret in her choices. She did not look back at her acting career with sadness or longing. Instead, she seemed content with what she had achieved and ready to embrace what came next. Her days were no longer filled with scripts, cameras, or long hours on set. They were shaped by meaningful conversations, quiet reflection, and moments that brought a different kind of joy. She stayed connected to her roots, often returning to the same environment that had shaped her early life. This gave her a sense of grounding that fame could never replace. From the outside, some people misunderstood this change. They saw her absence from television and assumed something had gone wrong. They wondered if she had been pushed away or if her career had simply faded beyond repair. But those assumptions missed something important. She was not forced out. She stepped away. There is a quiet strength in that kind of decision. It takes confidence to move in a direction that others may not fully understand. It requires a clear sense of self to choose peace over pressure and purpose over popularity. And in her case, that choice seemed to bring her a kind of happiness that fame alone could not provide. Even though she was no longer in the spotlight, she did not lose her connection with people. Those who met her during this time often described her as kind, present, and genuine. She gave her attention freely, listened with care, and shared her thoughts without holding back. The same warmth that once reached millions through a screen was now felt in smaller, more personal moments. This part of her life may not have been as visible, but it was just as meaningful, if not more. It showed a different side of her, one that was not shaped by a character or a script, but by her own choices and values. And yet, because this chapter was so quiet, it left the room for misunderstanding. People often fill silence with guesses. When they do not see what is happening, they begin to imagine what might be. Over time, those guesses can grow into ideas that feel real, even when they are not. So while she was living a life that felt full and steady, a different version of her story was slowly forming in the minds of others. And that leads to a question that begins to linger more strongly. If she found peace in the life she chose, why do so many people still believe something was missing? And what did they get wrong about the way she truly lived? The life she chose away from the spotlight. As time went on, the distance between Donna Douglas and the public eye became wider, and that space slowly filled with assumptions. When people no longer see someone often, they begin to wonder why. And when clear answers are not easily found, simple truths can start to feel unclear. Many began to believe that her quiet life meant something had gone wrong. Some imagined she had been left behind by the industry. Others thought she might have been struggling or feeling forgotten. These ideas did not come from facts. They came from the silence that surrounded her later years. But the reality was far more peaceful. She continued to live in Louisiana, close to the place where her journey first began. Her life was steady and grounded, shaped by routines that brought comfort instead of pressure. She stayed close to her beliefs, allowing them to guide her daily actions. Her time was spent in ways that felt meaningful to her, not in ways designed to attract attention. She did not hide from the world. She simply lived without the need to be constantly seen. From time to time, she still appeared at events and gatherings. These moments showed that she had not disappeared at all. She remained warm, approachable, and kind to those who came to meet her. People who saw her during these occasions often noticed the same gentle spirit they remembered from years before. There was no sign of bitterness or regret. Instead, there was a quiet joy that came from living a life she had chosen for herself. One of the reasons people misunderstood her situation was the strong image she had built during her acting years. When someone becomes so closely connected to a beloved role, it can be hard for others to imagine them outside of that space. So, when she was no longer appearing on screen, it created a feeling that something was missing, even though her life was still full in other ways. There was also confusion about the details surrounding her passing. Different reports mentioned slightly different information, such as her exact age at the time of her death. While these differences were small, they added to the sense that her final chapter was unclear. In truth, these were simple reporting differences, not signs of anything hidden or mysterious. What matters most is how she lived during those years. She remained active in her own way, speaking to people, sharing her beliefs, and continuing to connect on a personal level. Her focus was not on returning to fame, but on living with purpose. She valued the small moments, the quiet conversations, and the sense of peace that came from staying true to herself. It is easy to think that a life away from attention must be empty, but her journey shows the opposite. Sometimes, stepping away from the noise allows a person to find something deeper. In her case, that deeper meaning came from faith, connection, and a life that was not shaped by expectations. The misunderstanding did not come from anything she did. It came from how others tried to interpret her silence. People expected a dramatic ending or a hidden struggle because that is often what they are used to hearing. But her life did not follow that pattern. It was simple, steady, and real. And in many ways, that makes her story even more powerful. Because she showed that it is possible to walk away from fame without losing yourself. She proved that a quiet life can still be a full life. She reminded people that success is not always about staying in the spotlight. Sometimes it is about knowing when to step into something more meaningful. As these truths become clearer, the image of her final years begins to change. The confusion fades, and what remains is a picture of a woman who lived with intention and peace. But even with this understanding, one important piece still remains. Because when everything is finally seen clearly, a deeper question begins to rise. What is it about her life, her choices, and her journey that continues to stay in people's hearts long after she is gone? And why does her presence still feel so close, even today? The real story people never understood. As the years continue to pass, the name Donna Douglas still carries a gentle weight that has not faded. For many, it brings back memories of simple evenings, shared laughter, and a time when television felt warm and comforting. But beyond those memories, there is something deeper that continues to hold people's attention. It is not just about the role she played, it is about the way she lived. When people look back at her journey, they begin to see a pattern that feels rare. She experienced the height of fame, where her face was known across countless homes. She felt the excitement of success and the joy of being part of something that made people happy. But instead of holding tightly to that moment, she allowed her life to grow in a different direction. That choice is what makes her story stand out. Many spend their lives chasing recognition, trying to stay visible, trying to remain important in the eyes of others. But she showed that there is another way to live. She stepped away when she felt it was time, not because she had nothing left to give, but because she understood that life could offer more than public attention. This understanding did not come with noise or grand announcements. It came quietly through her actions. She moved closer to what gave her peace, and in doing so, she built a life that felt complete in a different way. When people revisit her work on the Beverly Hillbillies, they often smile at the same moments they once enjoyed. Her character still feels alive, still kind, still full of innocence. That connection has not weakened over time. If anything, it has grown stronger because it now carries a sense of nostalgia and appreciation. But what makes that connection even more meaningful is knowing who she was beyond the screen. She was not trying to impress. She was not trying to compete. She lived with a sense of calm that many people spend years trying to find. Her later life, though quiet, was filled with purpose. She gave her time to speaking, to music, to writing, and to moments that may not have been seen by millions, but were deeply felt by those who experienced them. There is something powerful about a life that does not depend on constant attention.
I don't know if they can get a close-up on this, but it's...
That's my little children's book.
Tell us a little bit about your children's book.
Her journey reminds people that success can take many forms. It can be loud and widely celebrated, or it can be soft and deeply personal. In her case, it was both, at different times. And she moved between those phases with a kind of grace that is not often seen. When people once wondered if something had been missing in her later years, they now begin to see that nothing was missing at all. The misunderstanding came from expecting her life to follow a certain pattern, but she chose her own path, one that did not need to match what others expected. That is where the real meaning of her story begins to shine. It is not about mystery or hidden secrets. It is about clarity. It is about knowing what matters and having the courage to follow it, even when it leads away from the spotlight. She did not lose her place in the world. She simply changed where she chose to stand. And even in her absence, her presence remains. People still discover her work for the first time. And those who knew her from the beginning continue to hold on to the feeling she gave them. That kind of connection does not fade easily. It stays because it was built on something real. Her passing in 2015 marked the end of her physical presence, but it did not close the impact she made. In many ways, it allowed people to look back more carefully, to understand her life with greater depth, and to appreciate the choices she made along the way. She left behind more than a character. She left behind an example of kindness that did not need to be loud, an example of success that did not need to last forever in the public eye, an example of a life that could change direction without losing its meaning. And as people reflect on her journey, they begin to see something that feels both simple and powerful, that a person can be remembered not just for what they achieved, but for how they lived. Her name continues to be spoken with warmth, not because of mystery, but because of the feeling she left behind. That feeling is gentle, steady, and real, just like she was. And perhaps that is the most important part of all. Because in the end, when everything is understood clearly, her life does not raise questions filled with doubt. Instead, it offers a quiet answer that stays with you, that a life filled with sincerity, calm choices, and true purpose will always be remembered, even long after the spotlight fades. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.